Hey, everybody, Dave Hagan here. Who's your financial daddy? That's today on the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to the financial success. Here is your host, financial problem solver and talk show host, Dave Hagan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Financial Wellness Podcast, or TFWP, the podcast where we like to think that just listening to us 30 minutes a week can keep you on the path to financial success. Think about that. Just 30 minutes a week to keep your head moving in the right direction. That is our theme for this week. Today, we're going to talk about who's your financial daddy or your financial advisor. But first, let's say hello to Nick. Nick, how you doing?
Dave Hagan, not doing too bad. Looking over a nice balcony right now. How are you?
Good. Nice place to be. Thanks for joining in.
Of course.
All right, so let's talk about this. Who's your financial daddy or your financial advisor? You're sitting there watching TV, or you're playing around on the internet, and you see a good investment opportunity, or one country invades another, and you're thinking, wow, should I make some moves in terms of my investments? Now, we're not going to give you any specific financial advice, but we want to talk a little bit today about who do you call? Who's your financial daddy? Who's your financial advisor? And I think it's important that you know ahead of time who you're going to call rather than trying to find somebody at the last minute. So we're going to talk about the different kinds of financial advisors that you could look at, that you could contact, how they are compensated, what they can and cannot do for you, because I think it's an important thing. So, who's your financial daddy? You have a financial daddy, Nick?
David Hagan.
No. I think you do. You do most of your stuff on your own right now, right?
I do. I'm pretty independent, Dave. But I'm also, a small fish in a big pond. So
right.
I don't have too much money to invest.
Right. But as that grows, you may rethink that. You may have other ways that you go about doing things.
100%. I agree.
Yeah. So here's some thoughts. Getting the proper financial advisor, as a topic, it's all over the media. Everyone wants to be your financial advisor and tell you how they think it ought to be. Everyone wants to be your financial daddy. So here's some thoughts. Who is your financial advisor? Well, first and foremost, you could be like Nick. Your financial advisor could be yourself. And bear in mind, hopefully, you're always the ultimate decider, even if you have help. So you're always going to rely upon yourself, hopefully, to be your own financial advisor. But it's also good to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. It's you never know whether you're going down the right path. Sometimes you become so enamored with your own thought process or ideas that you just want to do it all yourself. So yes, it's going to be yourself. Always, first and foremost, it's going to be yourself. But yeah, you might want to have someone to bounce some ideas off as well. But I think you should only rely predominantly on yourself if you absolutely crave doing all the research and making all the judgments yourself. If you wake up in the morning and you can hardly wait to do the research and look at the market and move your stuff around a little bit, or not move your stuff around a little bit, then I think you should be doing that. And going back to Nick, I think you spend a good deal of time thinking about and making your own calls, right?
I used to.
Used to? Well, now you got to work full time, but before that, right?
Yeah. Now I'm just putting my money in very blue chip or blue collar stocks, and I'm not as risky as I was before.
Yeah. Well, I know you're always talking to me about crypto and this or that.
Yeah.
And it seems like, you're spending or we're spending a lot of time doing the research, checking it out. Because you were younger in your life, you were willing to take a little more risk because you had a longer horizon to deal with.
Well, Dave, did you hear about Warren Buffett? I sent you an article.
Don't start with me. Don't start with me. You said that he bought into a bank that specializes in part in crypto.
Oh, so you read what I sent you. Thank you.
Yeah, you got to get up pretty early in the morning to outfox Dave, But yeah, I mean, that is really interesting, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. So, number one on the list of financial advisors, yourself. You're always your own financial daddy. Here's another group, friends and family. You might listen to family. Sure. I mean, you always listen to family. It's always interesting to hear what they have to say, but you got to take it with a grain of salt. And then there's friends. Would you listen to friends? I mean, I wouldn't, at least not in a social context. You hear people talking at a party or people are bragging. A lot of times they're not as well as informed, and certainly not as informed as you are because you listen to TFWP, right? So I wouldn't listen to friends hardly at all. I mean, I might use what they say as a couple of data points in terms of what products or goods and services people like. But past that, for investment advice, I mean, have you ever been at a party and some guy starts talking your arm off about, oh, you got to do this and that and blah, blah, blah. It's like, what do you know? Well, I watch TV a lot. Not buying it. I wouldn't listen to friends a lot. How about number 3, the media? You think the media tries to influence you? Duh, all the time, right? I mean, sometimes you wonder if the media is more about, entertaining and influence than just reporting, facts and news. But, some of the stuff on the media is well researched, sure, but you got to make sure to vet the source. We've said time and time again that reading and writing and arithmetic is important in school, but in today's age, maybe just a big issue for everybody, but certainly millennials and Gen X is being able to vet the source. Where'd that information come from? Why are they saying that? What are they trying to get me to do? I mean, I wouldn't listen to the media much for financial advice. I wouldn't consider the media really a financial advisor, a financial daddy. There's some people that I like out there, Kramer. I like listening to Kramer. I think he's pretty straightforward. But, past that, they put a suit and a tie on some guy sitting in the closet these days, and all of a sudden he or she is like the media expert on, crypto or this or that. I mean, you got to be really, really, really careful when you're listening to the media. Now, you might get a few data points in terms of, hey, what's people talking about? What are things that people are interested in? Remember, we said years ago that a good way to look for investments was to go to the mall and look for shops that are busy. And a lot of people looked at the Apple store and said, man, that store is busy. Maybe I should buy some of that. And people that did that, turns out, did pretty well. Another person who might be your financial daddy would be your monthly bill payer. Now, for most people, this is you. For most people, we pay our own bills. But, there's some people that hire someone to come in and open up their bills and pay their bills. So should you listen to the bill payer for financial advice? Not me. A bill payer is kind of a structural function, not someone that's going to give you a lot of investment advice or financial advice, although you might get from a very good bill payer some data points about your finances. If they say, wow, look at all the money that you spend on going out to nightclubs, for example, that might cause you to reevaluate how you want to deploy your capital. But for the most part, I don't think you're going to get financial advice from a bill payer. I don't think a bill payer would be considered your financial daddy. How about your tax preparer? Well, again, for most people, this is you. Most people, I think, do their own taxes, especially in the age of TurboTax and all that. But what about H&R Block or some of these other preparation companies? Should you rely upon them for financial advice? I don't know. Probably not. I think they're pretty one-dimensional. They prepare a tax return based upon the data that you give them. Now, you might, again, get some good data points from somebody like this. You sit down, they hand you the return, if they're even meeting with you person to person anymore, and say, well, what do you think? And they might say, well, this area seems low, or there's some deductions you could make yourself available to, or, charitable contributions would be very powerful for you, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think you're going to have a tax preparer be your financial daddy. How about a CPA? Well, I think we're getting warmer. CPA is someone who may or may not prepare taxes, but also has a good deal of education. If they're certified, calling themselves a CPA, they've had to work a certain number of hours, and they've certainly got a fairly high degree of experience. Maybe not in financial advising, maybe not, but maybe so. It's something to think about. Now, a CPA, you're going to pay typically by the hour. So be prepared for that. Probably money well spent. And when you're looking for somebody, talk to business associates, talk to friends. Who do you recommend? Hey, have you bumped into anybody that you think is especially good? And then go in for a 1 or 2 hour paid consultation to see whether the person, clicks with you, whether they're of interest to you, whether this is what they do a fair amount of. So that's a CPA. Another person might be a paid financial advisor. I think we're getting warmer here as we're going down this list. Maybe someone would say we're moving up the list. Perhaps, except for maybe a highly enlightened sense of self or CPA, this might be the best person so far. A good financial advisor, you're going to pay by the hour. Again, by the hour, typically. You'll get good recommendations from business associates and friends. I could give you places where you could go find someone on a CFP list, but you can find that on your own on the internet. I would talk to friends and family and get somebody. And again, go in initially for a 1 or 2 hour paid consultation. You'll pay them by the hour, or in some cases, they may charge you a flat fee just to put together a financial life plan, which I think is a huge, huge thing to have. What should you pay for something like that? Oh, I don't know. Maybe around a couple grand. Although I've seen some financial advisors or CFPs that charge more than that, even $4,000 to $5,000. But find out what they charge, and if you pay something or a flat fee to get a full financial plan, I think it's well worth it. They'll look at taking care of risk issues in your financial life. They'll talk about long-term savings. They'll talk about retirement. They'll talk about taxes. They'll take you through the whole thing, and money well spent in my estimation. I wish I had somebody tell me much earlier in my life, hey, go talk to a financial planner.
Dave,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think you would have done differently now compared to 20 years ago?
If I had a plan, well, first of all, I would have had a more thoughtful and direct path in terms of what I wanted to, where I wanted to end up and how I wanted to get there. Especially in the earlier part of my life, I was just of the mindset that you just keep showing up and make as much as you can. So I certainly would have been more deliberate in terms of my financial path, my career path, and probably would have been ahead of where I'm even at now. So I think that would have made a big difference. Might have even made a big difference in terms of what career I chose. Heck, if I had really thought about it seriously, I would have been doing something like this 20 years ago. I mean, not a podcast, but maybe in the radio media, because one, I like it a lot too. I think I'm pretty good, and three, I like helping people.
Of course.
So I don't know. But if you're looking at someone who's a financial planner, here's an interesting thing. Look for someone that's got the heart of a teacher. A good financial planner will walk you through things and teach you. They'll want you to understand. So look for someone that's got the heart of a teacher. If they can't explain it, if they're not a good teacher, maybe they're not a good mix for you. Now, if you really don't want to know anything about anything and all you want to do is make money and go on vacation and let somebody else handle it, then you don't necessarily even need a teacher. But I think most people would really appreciate understanding some of these concepts, understanding, heck, some of the things that we talk about here at TFWP. Any thoughts about some very broad strokes or big topics, powerful topics that we've talked about here at TFWP, Nic?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Dave.
No, I mean, certainly have a plan, right? Certainly live under your income. How about
Well,
money doubles at 7% every 10 years? It
well, not
compounds.
well, not only that, but I also think it's very, very important to keep an emergency fund,
Yeah,
and especially with the pandemic.
sure.
I think there's just the unknown that can just happen in one day.
Yeah,
Like you lose a job, your car dies, the stock market falls. What
yeah.
happens?
Yeah. Oh, and really what a relief that is. Remember in one of the early episodes, probably in the first 4 months, 3 months, maybe even 2 months of the show, which is now 4 years ago, we said, yeah, you should set up an emergency fund. That all sounds good intellectually, but
Who knew?
then
Who
who
knew?
knew? Yeah. Yeah. And then, later on we did a show with someone who had put together a financial or a emergency fund. And he was talking about the sheer joy of not having that worry in his life anymore. And so I think that was the next step. Not only is it an intellectual endeavor, but also an emotional endeavor, which, by the way, relates to the theme of last year's show, which is financial success is more about the heart than the head. If you don't know what that means, go listen to some shows from last year. But when people get emotionally into it, they take it more to heart. And we talked with, I believe his name was Matt, nice guy, and he was telling us, what a financial relief and, in fact, exhilaration it was to have a emergency fund. And then we took it a step further when we talked to our millennial who talked about the fact that when COVID hit, she had this emergency fund put together, and it helped her get through, the COVID thing, and in fact allowed her to even get a better job coming out of COVID. So look back to that episode. Interview with a millennial. Amanda was who we spoke with. Very interesting episode. So, I mean, you've hit it right on the head, I think, Nic. These are some of the main themes, the main things that we've talked about over the years. And wow, I think it makes sense. But we are trying to fill the role of the teacher for those people that don't have good financial advisors, for those people that have no financial advisor at all. We're trying to fill in some of those gaps, and hopefully we are. Finally, at the top of the list, or if you think that we're moving down a list here, a money manager. A money manager, would a money manager be your financial? Well, they might manage your money. I don't know if they'll give you other advice, but a money manager is another category of person to talk to. And typically they only manage money. They're not providing you with any long-term financial plan or advice. They're just looking to get a reasonable rate of return and look out for your money. Some people do both. Some people will be a financial planner, a financial advisor, and your money manager. And those people are gold. Those people are optimal. You've got someone that you can sit down with that will develop a plan that will motivate you to pursue that plan in a very visceral, emotional kind of way. That is the gold standard. That's the good stuff. So how do you find this person? Well, again, I think, you can look on the internet. There's all sorts of places that pull you into a discussion of finances, and they're in the business of generating a lead for somebody. I think the best place is talking to friends, getting recommendations from business associates, and again, going in for 1 or 2 hour paid consultation. Offer to pay them, for goodness sakes, because this is like really important. You don't go to a doctor based upon how little they charge or whether they charge you at all. It's phenomenal to me that we were able to send a rocket to the moon on a candle that was basically built by the low bidder. But we got away with something there. We were unusually clever, and we got away with something. We could have had a lot more problems. Pay them for their time so that they pay attention to you. Again, look for someone that's got the heart of a teacher. A good money manager will tell you what they're doing. They'll explain to you what you're doing, and they won't feel threatened by the fact that they're teaching you. I remember one time I was talking to this guy, and he was a money manager, and we struck up a conversation, and we started talking about different stocks and things like that. And his approach was, well, not a lot of people can read balance sheets like me. I'm the one that knows how it is, and I'm the one that I got the secret sauce. And the heck with you, guy. First of all, I shouldn't have been threatening him at all or been a threat to him at all. And secondly, this is experience or information that anybody can garner over a multi-year period. So look for someone that will explain to you what they're doing. Now, a money manager, after you pay them something hourly the first time, they're going to want to take usually about 1% of the value of the assets a year. And you think, my goodness, 1% a year in 100 years, I'll be out of money. Well, no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. If they can't get you, 1%, they probably shouldn't be in the business. In fact, they probably won't be in the business for very long. But what you spend with them, the thought is valuable, because they will bring back to you many times more than that.
Well, Dave,
Yeah.
also, think about it. If you keep your money in a CD or even less, you keep your money in a savings account.
Mm-hmm.
How much are you making there? You're not even paying a professional to be in that spot.
No. And you're making what? It's a percent or less if you're doing
Less.
CD kind of stuff.
Less.
But, over the years we've talked about, anybody can walk into an Ameritrade or a Schwab or any of these places and say, I'd like to open up an account. And they'll give you a list of funds that they manage or that somebody else manages and what they've returned over some period of time. And they can say, well, what are you interested in? What do you like? Do you like tech? Do you like automotive? Do you like foreign stock? And you can pick based upon what you see. They'll guide you. They won't make the actual pick because that creates other issues, but it's pretty easy to do that. And there's no reason not to do that. A CD is kind of a losing investment. It seems to me. But the thought is, if you go pay a professional 1%, they'll make you many times more than that over some period of time. If you like what they do, if you trust what they do, that kind of thing. So let's land this plane a little bit, Nick. Let's sum this up. Consider everything that influences you, whether it's your family or the media or anyone, and then think about and choose your financial daddy in advance so that you've got that person that you can periodically respond to. And don't be afraid to pay to have a little more success or a little more peace of mind.
So, Dave, let me understand this. Is it fair to say that if I, pay a CFP 1%, but I get 6 or 7% in return, I'll make money?
Certainly. Absolutely. Seems like a pretty good deal, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if somebody says, well, pay me a fee and I'll get you 30% on your money every year. Obviously that's not realistic. I know some people that invested money and they had a really good year and they went out and told people about it. And people said, yeah, well, you're taking too much risk. I'm not comfortable with that. Take off, buddy. So if somebody tells you that, I think they're pulling your leg, but or maybe pulling your leg, but a reasonable rate of return, something that's better than S&P, or something that's better than the S&P, or in something that's in line with where you're at in your financial plan. Yeah, that makes sense. If you've got a good planner, they'll return you on your money sometimes many times over. So I think it's a good idea, and you get peace of mind, and you've got someone to bounce your ideas off of, and you've got someone that just eats, sleeps, and drinks this kind of stuff all day long. I don't know. Seems like a good investment to me if you think about it as an investment, huh, Nick?
Yeah, 100%.
So I think those are some things for our listeners to think about. Consider that everything influences you. Think about this in advance and choose somebody in advance, and don't necessarily be afraid to pay for more success or for more peace of mind. Well, I think that's a wrap, Nick. Thanks for joining us this week.
Thanks a lot, Dave.
All right, everybody. We'll talk next week. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. If you have a question that you would like Dave to answer on the podcast, go to thefinancialwellnesspodcast.com. You can leave an audio message with one click of a button, or type your message into the question box. Either way, it's sent right to Dave's phone. Remember, Dave will randomly draw from the submitted questions and pick the winner of a free 1-hour personal conversation with Dave to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you receive the new episode notifications, or share the podcast via the app with your family and friends. This is your announcer, Nic Appel, wishing you every financial success.